Hey, everybody, welcome to the Nation That's Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, along with my co-host, Barbecue Hall of Famer, Ms. Leanne Whippen, coming to you from the respective Turn It, Don't Burn It studios in Portland and Tampa, and anywhere that there's great barbecue. We would like to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. We're going to be talking more about that in a minute. In fact, we'll start right now. Today, our guest is a frequent friend of the show, and he's back for his spring report, if you will. Will Homer, COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. And he's just come off the road. You got a new grandkid running around over there.
I do. Yep. She's just almost walking. Almost.
Yeah. Was she born
Yep.
2 days ago or what?
No, gosh, no. She's pretty big for her age, 9 months, I believe it is. And yeah, she is. She's just almost there. It's pretty cool.
Good for you. Leanne, if you don't know this, Will runs the Homer ambulance service for people in Fossil if they need to get to the Dalles or Bend for
Oh, I did not know that.
delivering
Yeah.
babies and stuff. He throws them in the back of the pickup with a blanket and takes off. And usually by the time they get to the hospital, everything's ready to go. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. They used to do that with my mom when I was not yet born. They took her for a car ride every night.
Yeah.
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 Bumpy roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. So what's going on in the beef business?
Well, kind of the same old trudge. Beef's moving. I went out and did a little stand out on the road and met with my customers and kind of got a little rehabilitation, which is always a good thing. Kind of talk yourself in the doldrums when you're secluded from everyone. So that was a good deal. Got to find some new meat markets that are old friends of Painted Hills that we didn't even know they existed. So and then we did a food show with a local distributor, has a bunch of good old friends together, and we just share lots of laughs and talk about the beef business. And we all know that beef's more expensive and gonna get more expensive, and it's just part of what we're dealing with. And I guess I was reassured that my product's good and my quality's good, and the customer's gonna keep searching it out and searching for it, and that's what I needed. So good deal.
Are
Other than
those
that, yeah.
are those and Leanne's done them, I've done them. Are those food shows really worth it? Do you think?
No, no. This one is just this one is closed to just a distributor who is flashing all of the vendors that they work with every spring. A lot of the same people I see there, shake hands, say hi. You invest a day and a half. This one is the better of most because they do host us to a really nice dinner the night before. Get you a few drinks, have a handshakes and hugs and all those things that kind of camaraderie and build that back, and but the next day and the next day, because they do that, they do get quite a few of their customers to come. And so that's a good thing. They're trying to show the vendors to their customers. The other food shows that we've done, I've never done a public food show. I don't do a public food show. I'm not there to serve the masses. I'm there to serve the people who put Painted Hills in their case, like we see here. And so, eh, yeah, you can cover some far out. There were some folks there from Alaska. I'm not off to Alaska to see. There were a couple food service distributors that I didn't know we did business with. We met. Those are good things. I yeah, it's okay. I mean, this is a friendship relationship as much as
Sure.
anything.
Which do you think is more effective that affects not just the perception and the brand of Painted Hills, but the actual sales? Is it a food show like that or food shows like I know Leanne does them, I do them? You're there in the public, you're cutting up little pieces of meat with a toothpick and say, isn't this the greatest stuff since sliced bread? And it is. But
I would, yeah, go ahead.
well, I
Sorry,
was just
Jeff.
going to say the point is they're two different audiences.
Oh, yes.
And when you're really out there in the trenches trying to get the consumers to switch from what do I want to call it? brand B store bought to a premium beef like Painted Hills. I always thought that the face to face with the actual customer worked best.
Yeah, we have been far more successful doing the demo in the store. You get the product in the store and then get it in someone's mouth. They look at the prices first, and then if you're there to take that away from them and not talk about the price of beef, but talk about what it is we do without the hormones, without the implants, and then put it in their mouth and they realize, that's good. That's different. That is what pays off. And so we're actually working more to get back in the stores like we did when we were new 27 years ago. And that is really the important part. Now, those big public shows, we did the Northwest Food Show or something like that. And it's supposed to be a wholesaler show, but I think it was pretty public. And the problem with those is we can get it in somebody's mouth there, but they got to know where to go find it. And if I got about 7 locations in all the city of Portland, that's too hard to go find. If I was Coca-Cola and now you could find me in every roadside stop, then that's a different story. So,
right. What's been your experience, Leanne, with those? I know you still do them on occasion.
I don't do them, in Will's capacity. So that's the difference. But I agree with what he's saying. You can love the product. I'll give you a perfect example. I just did a video for a fast food company that sells French fries in stores. And it was hard for me to find these French fries. And even though I thought they were absolutely fantastic and people might try them at a fast food joint, they aren't going to be able to find them in their regular grocery stores. So that is the challenge.
Yeah, I always, well, first of all, I enjoyed talking to the people and answering questions. The other thing I think that was my highlight of my day is when I could walk them from my station about 10 feet over to the meat case and point to it and say,
sure,
that right there is what you just ate. And they would go, wow. And a lot of times you could see, they'd pick it up, put it in their cart or basket or whatever they had. And you knew you made a sale. But for me, it was more important to kind of get them hooked on the brand.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
And you're real good at that?
Me?
Yeah.
Your wife is.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I know Gabrielle can do that. I was just wondering if the big guy could do it there.
It almost turns into an impulse buy too. I mean, why do Sam's and Costco do all those, tasters? Because people are going to throw it in their cart. It's right there. They're going to move on to the next item and they're going to walk out with the product for the most part. I mean, I've done stuff at both those places and work stuff, and people say they're going to buy the stuff and it'll be frozen or even a refrigerated item. And I will have the Costco employee bring back a couple bags because people ditch them along the way.
Yeah.
So you never know. But usually, I mean, they're doing it for a reason. So they are selling the product.
Yeah.
I think one of the most fun ones I ever did, and we'll get back to the important stuff in a second. There's a little town you're very familiar with it, Canby, which is just north of me. And there's a thriftway there, which if you're listening to this in the part of the country that doesn't have thriftways, it's an independent little chain, independent grocers, and they banded together to be able to have more purchasing power and all that. Thriftways are a little bit more expensive than a Kroger or a Safeway or something like that. But they also seem to have better selections on certain things. Anyway, they did this Christmas food show. And I know you guys have done it because I did it for you a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it was just this Congo line all the way around the store. Started up front with, some sliced pears or whatever. And you kind of worked your way around the store. There must have been 25 or 30 stations there. But what I had the best of all worlds. I had wine right next to me, then me, more wine, then seafood, then chocolate. And I would watch those people. They'd go do that. They'd put something in their basket. And about 2 minutes later, they were right back, circled right back around, cut around the front of the store and up the aisle, and came right back and did those 4 or 5 stations in a row. Some of those people, I just asked them if they wanted a chair and we could serve them. But it was pretty funny to see it because they really liked it and worked out well for the store. So that type of thing. We're going to take a break in just a second here, but it's really important. I want you to think about something while we're at the break. All the crazy turmoil that's going on. We're not going to talk politics, but all the crazy turmoil that's going on in our country and around the world. And like you said, it's expensive. Beef's expensive, seafood's expensive, all that. But how is all of that helping or hindering? And I'm guessing it's the latter, with like beef prices and getting the message to the public. Because I'll say this, and then we'll go to break. When they figure out the inflation rate, they do not add in the cost of fuel or food. So if they say, well, our inflation rate is down to, 5% or whatever crazy number it is, it's not really that, it's higher. So I want you to think about that. We're going to take a break and be back with Will Homer, COO from Painted Hills Natural Beef, Hall of Famer Leanne Whippen, and myself on BBQ Nation right after this. Welcome back to the nation. Excuse me, I'm JT, along with Leanne Whippen, and today we've got Will Homer, the COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. If you want to reach out to us, we're on all the social media platforms. Go to the website, bbqnationjt.com. You can send us a note. It's not that hard to find us. And, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those things. We're all out there. So is this guy, Will Homer from Painted Hills Natural Beef. So when we went to break, I asked you about craziness that's happening, gave a little short speech on inflation. Will and I, economics majors in college, one of the things we did. So
it was just easy to get through.
It was just easy to get through. Yeah. If you could read Samuelson, you were fine. So
regurgitate. Yeah.
Just regurgitate it. But how does that affect people? I know it affects, you listen to the man on the street interviews, you read some of the blogs and stuff, and they're like, good God, this is killing us.
Well, I feel like you're getting a mixed bag right now. You're actually getting the benefit of, you mentioned world. We're still dealing with the world glut of beef from other countries, and not necessarily in the United States, but it is a world market, and there is several Far Eastern countries, Asian countries that use imported beef. They import beef. They just don't grow enough, right? And so the Australian market has plugged a lot of that business up with supply, which means that the American beef, which I think it's been a year now, but I think we got to about 18% of the beef produced in the United States was sent overseas and export, some level export. And in fact, Mexico's our biggest export partner right now because the Asian markets are shut down. So that beef is not leaving the country like it usually does. It's staying here in our country, and that is depressing the price of beef. Now, you just talked about how high it is. That didn't sound right, did it? But that is depressing the price of beef compared to the costs that we are paying for these live animals, whether it's the live animal fit for harvest or it's a live animal straight off his mother ready to go to pasture of some kind. That market has exploded and is in a transition to a point we don't know where that point's going to be, but there are a lot of people in the way of that runaway train that are just trying to figure it out right now. So what'll happen is the world market, will the others run out of beef and our exports be able to fill in, or will we just have to suck them down here at a cheaper value until they're gone? the major packers that drive the boat right now are working very hard to slow the production speeds down. They're going to take some serious measures here in the near future. And I don't know when you're going to air this, but yeah, and that is their way to slow it and raise the price of beef in this counter to pay for those cattle that are costing us so much money.
So in essence, if you, and I know you don't do this number, but just a fictitious number. So if you process 2,000 head of cattle a month,
Yeah.
okay, and that would not be, I mean, a week.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But if that, that may not seem like a lot, but that's kind of a low to mid range producer, I'm sure, compared to some. Some are.
No, that's number 12.
Is it?
That's a huge number. There's three guys at the top of the pyramid. Number 4, they want to call it the big 4 because the biggest one, JBS, absorbed number 3 several years ago. Most people forget this, but so they turned National Beef into number 4. National Beef is, what is it? I think it's 1/3 of number 1 or 1/8 of number 1. And by the time you get to number 8, you're down to AgriBeef, which is our neighbor. And there's 2 plants that do 3,000 head a day or something like that. So yeah, it's a very tiny, there's 3 guys that drive the boat and the rest of us all ride along with it. So, and then me, I'm 1/10 of 1% or even smaller now that I've kind of tightened the boat in an attempt to hold off the costs. And so then you think to yourself, okay, so if the cattleman at the feed yard gate to make that box of beef is costing me, a packer, a ton of money, then he must be making a ton of money. And he's not. There's still costs involved in corn and feeding. And it's kind of like I don't know, our feedlot costs are kind of a little bit like our, like fuel, you get it the cost gets stretched up and then it comes back, but it never comes back to where it was.
Right.
So we're struggling with that a little bit right now. And then the cow calf guy, they've had their head tore off for several years, and they're just now, last year's calf, the cow calf guy who has a cow that produces a calf on her side, that guy, he felt good about last year's value. I don't know what he's going to get this year. Nobody knows. He might be raking it in. I don't know, but he's still, so the question of the day is he raking it in, and is he going to stop sending them to town, or is he raking it in? Nobody knows. Or is it going to rain and he's going to stop sending them to town? Nobody knows, but there is a sheer less number of cattle on the ground. So,
well, let me ask you this: who is making the money? Because somebody's got to be making money. If you guys are here,
yeah,
and you go to the store, and all of a sudden that ribeye is $19 a pound, but you're getting $11 a pound for it. I'm just making up numbers, folks.
I know.
Just like
Yeah,
this,
I know.
but so that's an $8 difference per pound. Somebody's making money along the way.
The cow calf,
I know who
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's that organization that you hear of all the time, the beef mafia.
The cow calf guy is going to get away with quite a bit of money. I know that the National Cattleman, we just went to the National Cattlemen's event and they just changed presidents, but the past president, his favorite statement for the last 6 months was that he sold his calves for $500 a head more than he did the year before. So he's collecting some dollars. He's getting some dollars. Here in the retail case, they stretched the price up when COVID caused the box beef price to launch when it was short in supply. They stretched their price up and they have not let it back down. Now, have they eaten that value up with employment, all their costs? I tend to side with them. Yes, they've probably given a lot of that margin away to costs, but historically, the difference between their retail and the wholesale price of beef is a whole lot closer than it is today. So the cattleman think that they can just charge whatever they want. The price can just take right off and go through the moon, because there's a great big margin between the box beef price and this margin, that this price that's shown in the counter today. And I don't know if it exists or not. We're going to find out, because we're going to squeeze this retailer, and then that's going to squeeze the customer too.
So there's not, for the retailers, they don't have a standard markup of, say 25% on beef across the board. I mean, do they lower that when they're heavy on a certain cut? Like what changes that percentage? And
all of the above.
obviously,
Yeah.
like your Costco, your Sam's, they're considered wholesale clubs, but it isn't really a wholesale price, but it's better than a regular store retailer. So is their markup like 20% and like your Safeway is 30%? Like, how does that work?
Well, I'm giving away too many secrets. You'd probably, I would say historically.
Okay, let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
We're going to take another break, and then you can answer
Okay.
that, because I got a really long segment when we come back. All right.
Okay.
Okay,
right.
you're
You'll
listening
have
to
to remind
Barbecue
me.
Nation. I will. I'm
All
gonna
right.
let Leanne repeat the question. We're going to
Okay.
take a break. We're going to be back here on Barbecue Nation with Will Homer, COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef, best beef in the world as far as I'm concerned, and Ms. Leanne Whippen, best barbecue cook in the world as far as I'm concerned. And me, I just a mic jockey. We'll be right back.
There you go.
Welcome back to the nation. That's the Barbecue Nation. I am JT, and we are talking with Will Homer from Painted Hills Natural Beef. And we'd like to thank Painted Hills Natural Beef for being a longtime supporter of this show. And they always say beef the way nature intended. It's actually a lot more than that. There's a lot more that goes into it. They can't just turn a bunch of cows out in the pasture and then a few months later say, okay, they're ready to go. It doesn't work that way. But we've talked about that on the show. So I would recommend you go to paintedhillsbeef.com. Check them out. If you want to order something, do Barbecue Nation, BBQ Nation, and you get a discount from that. I think it's 15%. So we do that. And then also pig powder, best rub on the planet. And the proprietor of said pig powder is with us here, Ms. Leanne Whippen, something her dad invented a long time ago, and she's taken over the reins, so to speak. This is kind of a cowboy show, as you know. So anyway, go to pigpowder.com, and Leanne will make sure you get it in your mailbox post haste. All right, let's get back to Will Homer from Painted Hills Natural Beef. Before we went to break, Leanne asked you about set markup percentages. I'll condense it a little bit. And is it, I'll say it again, Leanne, if you want.
No, I just was wondering if the retailer has a set percentage they mark up their beef, which obviously is more of a markup than your Costco and Sam's, and if they all try to stay at that percentage, and if they run, say, heavy on hamburger meat, when is it, do they reduce it by 5%? Like, how does that whole system work?
Well, I don't know. Probably can't speak for any individual, but the experience I've had so far are some of the regular retailers, I would say, they typically double the price and then they work for 32% gross. So I don't send them over here on this side. I don't send them steaks that look like that. I send them a rib roast that has a yield. And that means they cut the fat away. You've worked with some of that. And so they've cut some fat away. And when they're all done, they want to come out with a steak that looks like this. And sometimes they leave more fat on, sometimes they take more fat off, and that's their own yield. But when they're done with that, they want to sell that steak and get them all out the door and make 32% to pay the lights and the labor and all those things. You could say a box store would have maybe not such a desire to chase such a high return. But I know that, like you mentioned, Costco, you can use Costco as a guide to see what the price of beef is, because that board on the wall tells you, you can buy a case of strip loins today for just about what the packers reporting they're selling it for. So, but I think Costco in the store, I think, is something more like an 18% store, trying to cover cost and what little it does with the beef there. And it's, of course, trying to move a heck of a lot more tonnage than a little store. But I do notice, I notice in these prices here that this one here is not doubling them, but this is a private butcher shop, and they can play anywhere in between. And because we're not messing with a $8 ribeye anymore, we're messing with a $14 ribeye. I think that they are not holding as much money as they used to. I They like to do math in percentages. You know, we did this many percent, this percent last year, and that percent the year before, and we did this percent growth and this percent better. And they don't like to say, well, we just flat made X number of dollars. But I think that this thing's getting so high, they're starting to look at the dollars and trim their percentages a little bit. I really do. It's really nuts. But then if a store has an ad, typically they go to a vendor because they not only want to get a price concession for the product, but they want to ensure that they can get the product. So I say, I'm kind of ornery sometimes, but I say a typical grocery store a good grocery store will buy 7 different SKUs or 7 different pieces of the carcass. They'll buy 1 case of most of those items, and they'll buy 17 boxes of whatever's on sale. So whatever's on sale does 2 things. It puts the banner in front of the customer, whether it's at home or it's at the front door of the store or it's in the case when they get there. But it puts the thought in their mind that that's what they want to buy. Then it also pushes the product onto the meat manager to have to stand there and cut this stuff and prepare it all, because it's hard to get anybody to order their own workload. And in a meat market position, you are sitting there on the phone or you're on the scanner, and every time you scan a box or ask for another one, you've asked to increase your workload. And that's a difficult. I've been there. I've done that. That's a tough human nature kind of thing. So, but they all have goals and they all have targets for sales and things, but typically, and then like we've said in the past, you know, they have a discount section down on the end of the cabinet. There'll be a half price section. None of that stuff costs them costs them money, and they don't want anything to go in there. So if it's not selling, they're not buying it. If it's not, if they're priced it too high, they don't just roll the price back. They just won't buy it. They'll buy something different.
Does that kind of reflect in everything we've been talking about? And you started to touch on it last segment. Is there going, we don't want to scare anybody, but is the amount of beef available over the next few months going to stay the same? Is it going to roll back with everybody with the Packers rolling back the amount that they'll take from you? Instead of 2,000 head a month, they're going to take 1,500 or whatever the numbers are. It doesn't matter.
Well, the number is 625,000 a week, and they're going to roll it back to 600. So the flow's still going to be there, and your local store is not going to be blanked like it was with COVID. You're not going to see anything like that. You might see 2 rows. You might see this thing shrink down, and right down here on the end is chicken. 2 more rows become chicken, or 2 more rows become pork, or you might see the whole case size shrink, but you're not going to see a shortage of beef. No, but we are going to take that extra 18% of the beef that we export out of the weight, out of the tonnage, out of the industry, so that we can get the value we need to price the beef to pay for these damn cattle. It costs too much.
I get it. I had somebody ask me this the other day, and I started rambling like I do sometimes, but I really couldn't give them a significant scientific answer. So you're Mr. Science. I know you are, especially when it comes to mirrors and Wi-Fi signals. I know that. Leanne missed that. Yeah. Will and I had a hell of a discussion the other day about mirrors and Wi-Fi signals and stuff. But that's for a different time. Why is it that they don't grade hogs like they do cattle?
You know, I don't know the real answer. I think they
Well, neither
used
did
to,
I.
but
That's why I ask you.
I don't. I think they've homogenized. Is that the right term? Homogenized pork so perfectly that everyone's the same one. They don't. There's no, and visibly you can't see them. But there is a prime. There is some self-proclaimed prime pork. Some of it's fatty and well fed, and some of it's injected fat, injected basically emulsified meat into the product to make it more tender. So there's games played in pork like there is anywhere, but pork is it is the same item. It doesn't matter which pig you took out of where, it is the same item unless you go to the food show I went to this weekend, and there were probably 6 or 8 different pork guys, and they were different raising methods, and they were small, raised in the wild out in the brush. And there were guys who hung their bacon for 7 days before they smoked it to dry it a little. And there were guys who did all kinds of crazy things to try and set their pork aside. And there is value in that, but they fit the model in these unique little grocery stores like I do. They are not big. You're not going to see them in the Safeway in the mainstream. You're going to see cheap as cheap pork there. So
How could you tell if pork has been injected?
you got to look at it. You can tell.
Don't
You
they
can
have to
tell when
say
you
it on the label?
Mm,
I noticed that I know a particular brand.
yeah.
It says that it's got salt. It has an ingredient, whatever salt usually, that it has been injected or it's in there.
Now, are you getting it already packaged in the steak,
Yes,
basically case ready
yes.
format?
Mhm.
Yeah, I could see them having to do that.
I don't know if
wouldn't
they
know.
have to do that.
I wouldn't know if a distributor bought a pork loins and they cut pork out of, if they cut, steaks out of that. I don't know if there's a label that goes with that. I don't know how that works. So I'm not sure.
So I
But-
kind of disagree with what you're saying that all pork is about the same, because and you can go online, and I really do think there should be a grading system for pork because, there's color, there's, it's the pH factor, I think, or whatever. There are different grades of pork. I know I buy pork from a particular vendor because I know it's consistently better. And like your customers go to you because they know your beef is better, but they know they're getting graded there. But pork, it's not graded, so it's very difficult to tell. But I do think there should be a grading system.
But let me help you. Just remember, I said 625,000 head of cattle a day,
Right.
Right.
and we are 1/4%. We're 400 head a week, so to me, you recognize me as substantial. I make boxed beef, but I don't amount to anything. In pigs, they kill 1.5 million a week. So there's in plain old white pigs going to plant. There's
agree.
huge number, but you can
Mhm.
dig out the Beelers of the world and all those guys that I saw this weekend at they exist, and they are different. They're
Mhm.
good. They're different. I like them.
Mhm.
But you live in a very unique world too with food service, because those things come to
Mhm.
you. Just the standard run of the mill pork that's in Prairie Fresh bags, those are just plain old white pigs coming every day.
Well, we're going to take
So-
another another break here, come back, wrap up the show, but I will add my 2 cents. Most of the pork you buy, like you said, you can't tell the difference, and the flavor's not that great. There's no real flavor to it. We raised some hogs when I was a kid. We had, feeder steers and hogs and all kinds of stuff. But I remember that bacon, that side pork, those chops, whatever, had a lot of flavor to them. And I guess it was because my dad finished them out like cattle. I'm not sure. But anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Will and Leanne here on The Nation. Just a couple minutes. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. Next week, we've got Harry Sue.
Harry Sue.
We love Harry Sue, and Harry's got a new project. He's got a new he's got his
Cooker.
new cooker coming out.
Mhm.
See if I can't get us a couple of those.
Mhm.
And also, we'd like to thank the folks at the Oregon Crab Commission. Great stuff. All I can say is, and let's see, next week I'm going back on local television here. Going to be doing a Northwest Wellington with some petite tenders and a crab slider. So there you go. I'll be doing
Mm.
those. See, something to look forward to, especially if you work at the station and you get to eat the stuff I cook when it's all
Yeah,
done.
there you go.
I think that's the only reason they ever invite me back. It can't be my charming personality. But we're talking with
No.
Will Homer, COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. We talked about why there wasn't. I didn't tell you. Leanne's favorite perfume is Duroc number 5. By the way.
Now I do like those. Those are good picks.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, those are very good. So for our people listening at home, give them some comfort if you can that 6 months going into the fall holidays, God, that's the toughest thing for somebody in your position. But are they're gonna have a rib roast available for Christmas?
Well,
Are
sure.
they gonna have to go with some stuffed Cornish game hens or something?
Sure. I don't know what their income, or wage or whatever their intake is, but as far as their outlay, yeah, it's going to be slightly higher. I mean, we're going to produce, they basically, the big guys say that we eat 57 pounds of beef per person per year now, and that we're going to make 51 pounds of beef per person for 2024. So what's that? That's 2 weeks that we choose not to eat beef because of that's not really, it's a big thing. You take 2 weeks out of this world we work in, it hurts me quite a bit, but 2 weeks out of someone's budget, it's okay. We're still going to eat beef. It's not, we're not going to go hungry. It's just going to get a little more expensive. It was expensive this year. Like I say, remember the margin is statistically, the margin is between the retailer and the wholesale price. Nobody knows what that is. He says he spent it all, but has he just gotten lazy in his trim spec? Has he gotten lazy at getting it out the door? He's going to have to tighten his belt too. And maybe it's tight. I don't know. I don't have any idea where that money's going to come from, but it's going to be all right. I'm going to get off track for 2 seconds just to
That's
say,
all
I
right.
listened to him talk today, and they said that there's twice as many car washes today as there was 10 years ago.
I believe that.
And there's going to be twice that many again by 2030.
You should see them building them around here in Florida. It is
I noticed,
nonstop.
yeah. So people don't need a clean car. They need to eat.
Well, I've always adhered to that. You don't need a clean car because you've ridden in my car a few times.
I know I am a clean car nut, by the way, but I believe in washing my own, but I live out in sticks. But I cannot get over a car wash. We live in Portland, right? We remember there was an old car wash outfit in Portland that went broke years ago.
Yep.
And we saw car washes everywhere, and they all went broke. We went up. That was the end of that. And now you see they're back. They're back everywhere with a vengeance. And there's money. People got money. It's okay. People got money.
Yeah.
They're just going to choose where to spend it. And food is, they need to take care of themselves and make good choices. And I believe they will.
Do you think that the strength and just the amazing stock market right now has helped your industry?
Yeah, the talking heads say it has. And well, let's take that. Let me back that up a little bit. Talking heads say that's a reflection of what your 401k looks like, and your 401k is good, then everybody's going to spend money and they're going to go out to dinner at the fine restaurants and they're going to do all these things. It also means that the mutual fund monies have come back and get in our business too. And mutual funds invest in futures out front. And so they have driven the future price of these cattle, the future price on the board of these cattle up, and guys who trade feeder cattle, buy calves off cows and buy yearlings off pasture, they trade based on what that futures board says for the future. And because the mutual funds are all piled in there, it's elevated. So does that add to the risk? Yeah, it's kind of something. Yeah, it's this stock market thing reaches everything. But I think the real side is the closest side is the first theory, is that when your 401k is doing well and I don't know how people get any money out of them. I just get up every day and I go to work and I try to do my thing, and I have a person who tells me to put money in here and not in there. And, in the 401, I think I have one. I don't know what it is. I don't look at it every day to decide whether I'm going to go to, I think that's a lot of fluff too. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to think.
We're going to follow up with the question I'm going to ask you now in after hours. Because, by the way, we made a decision. Yeah. The shows, we have to edit these shows for radio, right? We do. We have to meet time and all that stuff.
Okay. Yep.
And so sometimes things get cut out of it. And for a long time, our practice was just to take the radio version and post it as a podcast. We have changed that very recently. And now you're going to get the whole raw show, swear words and all, on the podcast.
That was good.
Jeff, you're breaking up.
Yeah. So when we've only got 2 minutes left, all right.
Straighten up.
When you hear the sky is falling, when the average person goes home, turns on their 6 o'clock news, which that's even not relevant anymore because there's news 24/7. But when you hear these grim predictions, stock market's going up, everything's great. The next day, some talking head is on there and the stock market took a 300-point dump. All right. Like that. And the sky is falling. Not so much for you, because I think you guys weather those storms pretty easily. You just work it into what you're doing and you just keep going forward. But the consumer hears that and they're going, Jesus, what am I have a 401k, but it's down 37% than it was this time last year. Would you like those guys just to shut up once in a while?
Well, I do struggle. I went to Seattle on Monday. I drove to Seattle on Monday and spent the week up there and last week. And I'm in Cle Elum. I'm at the Safeway. I parked there so I could do some work out on the street. I'm 18 rows from the front door at 2:30 on the afternoon on a Monday. And there's carts back. I have to dodge the carts to go in the store. There's carts going back and forth everywhere. We go by a Costco on Wednesday, I believe, mid-morning. You stop and go to find a parking place. What are these people going to do if they do run out of money? Because I can remember back when there wasn't anybody running around like this, and now there's just people everywhere. And so to me, it seems like they can't cry the blues. They don't remember what the 70s and 80s were like, I guess. Maybe I was a kid of the 80s and my parents were in the ranching business with 20% interest, and it was tough. It was really tough. But there wasn't people out like they are today, I don't know. The only thing I see going on right now is I do see the inventory increasing in equipment and automobiles as you drive around, but there's still lots of cars on the road. I got on I-5 or I-84 in Portland twice on Friday, and it was stop and go both times mid-morning. And it just, I don't know. I don't know.
I get it. Excuse me. We will follow up with that in after hours. But Will, thank you for being on the regular show again. And we'll have you back in a couple of 3 months to give us a summer report, spring report, something like that. And Leanne, thank you as always. And
Thank
folks,
you.
we will be back next week, like I said, with Harry Sue here on Barbecue Nations. Remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. Take care, everybody. Everybody, welcome to After Hours here on Barbecue Nation. I'm JT, at least I am so far today. And we're talking with Leanne Whippen, of course, my radio wife and co-host.
Mhm.
And then Will Homer, who is the COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. I think some of the best beef on the planet, bar none. And that's just not because I have a relationship with you. I actually remember the first time I ever tasted Painted Hills, and I stopped. It was at a demo in a grocery store. I walked
Yeah.
about 10 feet chewing on this piece of whatever it was, whipped around, came back, and I said, "What is this stuff?" And that was 22 years ago. You remember that? No, you didn't. You weren't there. You were home sleeping. But anyway, I'm just always curious because like I said in the regular show, they haven't put fuel and food in the inflation calculation forever. So people really don't have especially when you're listening to the news, which I try to avoid at all costs anymore. But when they say, well, inflation's down to, 2.9%, well, this country was used to having a 1.2% inflation for years. But, the government's borrowed money and people have made stupid decisions and all that. But I would think that on the consumer side, again, that when they hear that and their heads explode watching the TV at night, because it is a kitchen table issue, it's a budget issue. Leanne has a budget, I have a budget, you have a budget, everybody we know has a budget. And part of that budget, one of the most important things is you got to eat, as you so eloquently put it in the regular show. You got to eat, but sometimes you have to make choices. So sometimes I wish these guys, these great prognosticators, would just shut their pie hole and things usually even out on their own. But the other thing is, I wish the people that made these like inflation numbers and stuff, I wish they would just tell us the truth. If inflation is really at 5.6% or whatever it is, just tell us. We'll deal with it. Just tell us.
There's no decent source of information anymore. It's all about selling the commercials between for you were drinking. I didn't want to bring it up. That Mando stuff that keeps your stink away or whatever. I mean, there's just so much crap today, It's unbelievable. But that I don't think so. They said a couple years ago, I heard one of them say that most people's food budget's a rounding error in their tax statement. So make good choices and buy what you want to eat. Quit buying potato chips. They're not good for you. But anyway, sorry, potato chip guys. Anyway,
I know you've eaten a few potato chips in your day.
I know. They're not very expensive. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's just it. Eat what you want to eat. I'm just thankful that we're kind of in a society today it's somewhat busting us over the head, but it's kind of laid off quite a bit versus what was in the 90s, 80s and 90s with the whole saturated fat movement and all those things, when we got down to the lowest low in per capita consumption. And then we've bounced out of there with the Atkins diet and the protein movements that we're in today. And so those are good things. I don't think there's such thing as too much protein in your diet because I don't think you can physically take it on. It doesn't you can't just sit and eat it until you explode like you can Oreos. So
Right. I wouldn't know about that.
I remember college.
Do you know what the largest market is for like marketing and internet marketing
No.
pointed at consumers is?
No.
Leanne, do you know?
What category?
Yeah,
Is it a food category?
sort of. Yeah.
French fries?
No, a little bigger than that. It's diets.
Oh, diet.
Oh,
It's diet plans.
yeah,
Oh.
If
yeah.
you can sit down, I know somebody who did this, so I know this is true. You can sit down and you can write a weight loss book, and you can pay your local physician some money if you want, or some so-called quote unquote nutritionist to say, this is the greatest thing since shoe polish, and you should do it. And if you do this, you're going to lose 50 pounds in 7 hours, and so on and so forth, like that. And well, if that was true, I would have done it. But the point
Yeah.
is that that to me is right along the same path as uh scare tactics, if you will. They're preying on people's emotions,
Sure.
their self-esteem, whatever. You can throw all kinds of labels at it, but the point is, um if they think this is the miracle diet, I went on the Atkins diet 20 years ago, and it worked for me because I like to eat meat, you know and I would have scrambled eggs and ham in the morning, and I'd have a steak at night, and so on and so forth. And that was fine. Toughest thing was not eating maple bars. That's my favorite. That's really hard. Um, but I really think that, you know, everybody's always looking for the quick answer. And that's why these diet fads work so well as far as sales and marketing. They're probably not healthy at all, but for most of them, but that's what makes it work. That said, when you're marketing beef, is there more to it than just raising a good product, putting in it, like we say for you on the show, beef the way nature intended, and then maybe some store demos or whatever? But is that it as far as you can take it with marketing?
Yeah. I mean, just tell the story. Tell it what we do out on the ranch, and with the story, they got, people dream up so many bad things of what's going on that we just want to share what we do out there, and then provide a good product that once they do experience it, you don't want them to be eating and go, oh God, it's terrible, but I'm doing good for oh wait, that's Beyond Beef.
Yeah.
What, so, but because they'll go to pork, they'll go to chicken, they'll buy something else more often when it's not good. But we create a steak that you buy for your family and friends because your friends are coming over. And my dad always tells the stories. Your friends are coming over and you're going to have steaks tonight, or you don't want them to go home and say, God, that was the worst damn steak I ever had. I don't want to ever go back to Joe's again. So that's the kind of thing we're creating. It's really about the follow through of creating a product that tastes good. We got to get them to pick it up by telling the story and talking about no hormones and no antibiotics. And when we started 27 years ago, we talked about safety. And I'm not a big basher. I don't like to bash the other guy to sell my product because that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody bashes the other guy. Well, his doesn't do this and hers doesn't do that. And we're more carbon this and we're more carbon that. But when you get done and you put it in your mouth and it doesn't taste any different or it tastes worse and it costs more, they're going to buy chicken and pork more than they are going to run back to there. But what I want to create is the thing that goes, man, that was so good. The hamburger is so good. I gotta buy the hamburger. We're gonna make spaghetti tonight. I gotta buy the hamburger. We're gonna make hamburgers tonight. We're gonna make. I want them to come back to that. Now, do they know about us and what we do? Yes. Do they agree with what we do? Yes. Those are all good things. But I want them to eat the product because it's good.
Mhm.
It's tough, and I've sat in on a few of these with
No,
you.
it's not tough. It's choice. It's
No,
good.
no. No. Bad choice on my part
I know.
for
I
choice.
got
I
you.
know you did. But you've always, Painted Hills has always backed their product. And I've been in your office when somebody called and said, "Hey, I got a really gristly steak." And you take care of them. Yeah. It's only been a couple times in 22 years that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, you do that. Most of the big stores, excuse me, Kroger, Safeway, those the big chains, they don't do that. They 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 honestly probably couldn't do it.
Well, there's nobody. If you went to your meat manager and you knew, or you know, the first mistake the typical consumer does is doesn't go back and meet the guy that he likes to buy his beef from. Go back and talk to him, see what they got going on, see who they are. You know, we get. I had an occurrence in a store that recently where the tri-tips I've gotten short in supply and they've gotten high in price. And so this store takes the tri-tips out and puts select beef in its place. Now, I can't imagine I can't imagine there's going to be, the customers are going to go home. There's going to be 50% of them are going to say Painted Hill screwed something up, even though my sticker's not on the package. And the other 50% are going to say, boy, that store screwed me. I'm not ever going back there. And what they need to do is go back and see that and take a look and say, well, yeah, it's $8 a pound instead of $18 a pound. Why is it? Let's go back and talk to Joe and find out why. Let's go talk to what's going on in the meat business. Why is it like this? And
Right.
that way, if they have a bad experience, they can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go back and tell Joe that we really can't, we got to go back to 18 bucks. Maybe I won't buy tri-tips every Thursday night, but we got to have the good stuff. We can't have that other thing. So that's the biggest mistake people make is they need to go meet the meat guy and meat manager and go see what they're doing and understand what's going on in the back. But you know, Jeff, there's something going on here that's pretty crazy, and I haven't figured this out either. I have competition in my segment of no hormones, no antibiotics, and I have actually left that door open because of our struggle with this high price of cattle we talked about in the other segment. And I have meat managers like these guys in the back here that say, you know what, that other beef comes in, it has the same attributes, no hormones, no antibiotics, has a maybe even a third party certification, which is just paper. And
Right.
say, and they say it doesn't cut as well, it doesn't taste as well, it doesn't sell as well. What are you doing different? I can't tell you. I just think we have the best climate for beef where we are. I think we do a great job feeding cattle, and it's all about that Painted Hills name. So as we've evolved 20 years, I've even kind of pushed towards dropping that natural thing so that I get away from those others that do the same thing and say, hey, this is Painted Hills beef. There's only one place to get Painted Hills beef. So because you got to differentiate yourself. And obviously with what these guys are telling me in the back of the store, it's differentiated. So
Well, the other
it's pretty
thing is
crazy.
you're not doing dairy cattle.
No dairy cattle.
No dairy cattle.
Yeah.
And Leanne's looking at me like, what the hell is he talking about? If you ever drive
Well,
down,
yeah.
if you ever drive down the full length of California and you get down past Fresno and that, there's a great big feedlot down there beyond your east side of the freeway. And
Harris Ranch.
back when the dairy business was taking a plunge, I was driving down there and that thing had to be filled with 4,000 Holsteins. I mean, it was just
Oh
packed.
no. It has 200,000 cattle, and they're all Holsteins because California is was the largest dairy state in the nation at that time, right? I don't know which one where they've kind of all those dairy cows have moved to, but you're not going to see those black and whites like they used to be. In the last 2 or 3 years here, they've started managing their dairy cows tighter, and so a herd of 25,000 head will pick out the top 10% of those cows, breed those cows to a dairy bull to
Right.
create a dairy style calf, and the other 90% of the cows will be bred to an Angus bull and be bred half Angus beef. And so now those cattle come out mostly black, and those black cattle will go into the system as Angus cattle and will just blend in and become more Angus beef. So it's not a lot of cattle. There's 35 million cows in the United States, 30 beef cows, and there's 9 million dairy cows. So it's 5 or 6 million calves that will be crossbred to blend more. They'll produce better beef than the Holsteins, but the Holsteins were always there to begin with. My dad's up in arms. Oh my God, here they come. Well, they've always been there, but now they'll be bred to be a little bit better beef, but they'll still have the struggles of that dairy base in the background. And it might not just be Holsteins, it might be Jerseys.
Yeah.
It depends on what region, but they're all starting to use they're all starting to be able to differentiate their cattle by genetics, performance, individual performance, pick the best of the best to make the milk, and the rest, a dairy cow has to be bred every year to make milk. And
Right.
so we get lots of calves just left over that way. So
Well, I just remember that shortly after I drove by that, then all of a sudden there was a lot of Tough and Chewy Select in the grocery stores. I'll just put it that
yeah,
way.
I used to say all the beef south of San Francisco was dairy beef, and Phoenix and all that country. But I think there's getting to be some understanding of beef better down there in that market, because I'm starting to sell some product down there through food service in that neck of the woods. So
There you go.
they're starting to ask more questions.
So the next pressing question is, Leanne, did you score those steaks that are behind you?
I must have, because I can see they're on a plate that my mom has. She has these green plates. I normally don't do that though. So, oh, you know what? That was I was marinating these and I used them for it was like fajitas or something like that. So there was a reason behind it. I don't know, but that's not my norm.
I just curious, because they were so prevalent, those score lines in them. I just thought, well, maybe
Yeah,
she's
I
doing something
remember I made
special.
that for a particular dish. And I remember the instructions or something. Whenever I do recipe once, I follow the instructions 99% of the time. So obviously there was a reason for that.
Okay. All right. just curious. All right, buddy. So real quick here, I want to ask you a couple of our normal type questions, if there is such a thing. And you've been out on the road. Is there something that's really caught your attention that you've seen in the stores by the way of a protein product, or the way it's presented or marketed, that you've gone, it may not be any good, but you went,
All I ate, I shouldn't share this because hanging tenders are damn hard to come by, and there's just one per animal. But when I was in Charleston, I ate at a restaurant that took a hanging tender and cleaned it up and rolled it in a cellophane and chilled it. And so they basically created a tenderloin type item, pulled it out, cut it into 8-ounce portions, and then served it with a pepper sauce. And it was delicious, because you expect a tenderloin, which is a blank slate for a chef's skill, but this was a hanging tender that had all that rich meaty flavor, and it tore apart with my fork, and that was delicious. What else did I see? There was one other project. Man, I'm not gonna be able to remember on the spot, but there was one other thing that I thought was really good that I like to share, but man, I'm failing.
do you think that the creative folks like Leanne, some of these other top chefs around the country, around the world for that matter, but they are taking beef, not just tenderloins, but tri-tips, whatever, and they're creating these dishes with it. They don't get paid by you or the other beef producers. They just do it kind of as they're in their own library, so to speak. Has that helped with sometimes selling more of the meats that at times you don't sell very well?
Yeah, there's lots of new items compared to what we used to do. Most prevalently is the pellet smoker and the brisket. I mean, you know, brisket used to be, we used to let them wad up in the freezer for $1.20 a pound and sell them by the truckload to this distributor I went to this last
Yeah.
weekend. And short ribs were the same thing. We just let them build up because they only went export. And now they're local, you know, they're a crazy item. The American consumer has learned to eat all of the red mussels now, and they didn't used to. They used to eat just they used to get presented two things. Two different grocery stores. We had a grocery store that was your typical mainliner, or Walmart even was all select, and then they were not only select, but they were round mussels. Top round was a nice steak, and top sirloin was the top of the heap. And I have a grocery group in Seattle that's kind of the top of the heap that sells rib strips, tenders, and flanks. And that was my food service business 20 years ago. And now every grocery store sells rib strips, tenders, and flanks. And I can't hardly get the round meats to move. And so that's a struggle. And I don't know how to make a smoker fix that problem, but that's our biggest struggle in the carcass. But like your petite tender you're going to do, you know, that
Right.
sounds fun and all. And we used to have seasons of those, and we'd have long dates on those and such. And boy, we don't have that anymore. Those are hot. I went to Charleston, they were talking about them. I went to Seattle, they're talking about them. They're just talking about that everywhere. So there's just nothing there's nothing hiding anymore. It's just everywhere. Everything's out.
You know, what's interesting, Leanne, you pipe in on this, and we'll wrap it up after this. I can't believe how many people, like on Twitter, oxtails. These people they go nuts over oxtails. And it used to be oxtail soup, you know, okay.
Yeah.
Not anymore, man. It was like, I don't know if that started with the I don't know, the pho chuck steaks or whatever, but there's not a part on that cow that's a muscle for the most part, like you said, that isn't being used, or somebody's creating something with it. Leanne, what have you seen with that?
I agree, but you know, oxtails, they're hard to come by, at least around me. I think it's also social media, internet craze, and that, you know, it goes through, it'll be a cycle. I think they'll
Right.
disappear, and you know what I mean? Like they're looking for the next hot item to talk about, something different. So
I think you ought to create beef haggis.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No. The next one will be cheeks. Right now the USDA inspector ruins the cheek when he's inspecting the head for a gland in the cheek, but it'll be cheek meat's pretty good. And so we'll mess with that. I think I'll break down and mess with that pretty soon, but it's pretty good.
Keep us posted on that. That should be fun.
Will
Homer, COO of Painted Hills Natural Beef. He's a good guy. I've been privileged.
He's very smart.
He's a very smart guy. And if you need somebody to come fix your Wi-Fi, just give him a call. He'll help you out there.
If you're having a kid in the middle of the night, call him up. He'll get you there.
Yeah, the Homer ambulance service, you know. Put him in the back with a blanket, no pillow. That'll get him going. So, and Leanne, thank you as always for riding shotgun with me here. We're going to be back next week, like I said, with Harry Sue. That's always entertaining. Until then, go out, have some fun, be kind, and remember our motto: turn it, don't burn it. Take care, everybody.